This is KOYC 98.5 FM, your local community radio for Pueblo, Colorado. This is the Sq'd Show. I'm Jimmy Ray Smith.
And I'm Janet Wilson Smith. This is the Sq'd Show. It must be 10 o'clock on Friday. So, what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about the American school system, and with a K.
Yes. We came across this brilliant little, I'm guessing she's 13.
Middle
we don't
school
really
somewhere.
know. She's brilliant. She's going to
From New
it sounds
York
like
State.
Middle school, it sounds like.
New York
But she's
State.
got this nailed because this is what we're all thinking. So many people have talked about the school system and it's broken and we're just testing kids. And this young person has nailed it, don't you think? So we're going to listen to a little bit about what she has to say about the school system, and then we're going to chime in, and then we're going to play some more. You're listening to the Sq'd Show. It's Friday, 10 o'clock.
Hey kids, I hope you're enjoying life in apocalyptic clown world, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about all the different thoughts and ideas and critiques I have had of the American school system, about all the ways that it is counterproductive. First of all, I have to acknowledge that I'm privileged American swine. I live in a nice, suburban, upper middle class neighborhood. You know, people got golden retrievers, and I have access to pretty great education compared to where I could be in the world, so I gotta be grateful. But that doesn't mean the system doesn't have its fair share of flaws. We consistently rank as, 16th, 17th, 20th in world education rankings. Why is that? I'm going to tell you, young blood. Many education reformers, people who want to change the American school system, like to say that the reason for all their gripes about it is because school is kind of based off of industrial era. It's a factory model of education, which is a statement that is not really based in fact at all, but that doesn't mean that there aren't factory-like aspects of school, and it also does not invalidate the critiques that people like me have about school. So a lot of people get the origin of the problem wrong, but that does not mean that there's not a problem there. We are regularly bored and disengaged in the classroom. We memorize meaningless factoids that only make a shallow imprint on our brains, and we just forget entirely after the big exam. And we don't often have a chance to go down more of a personalized path in schooling where we can choose our interest and pursue our passions.
Okay, we're back, and we just heard some outtakes from Sophie talking about school, spelt with a K.
About the boredom of sitting in a desk all day long learning endless, seemingly meaningless phrases and dates and numbers.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you have kids that are smart, are they really going to sit there for... Now, what are we talking? Because she was talking about how school is so boring. So if young people are expected to just sit there and be lectured to all day without moving around, that in itself is flawed. So she talks about at the end of this segment, and we're going to play some more, about how it's not personalized. It's a template. Everybody goes through the same. So no matter how you learn or how quickly you learn, you're all lumped in together. And I've been saying for a long time we need to personalize the school system.
And that is the last thing that she said.
Yeah.
No personalization. And now back to more of Sophie from
Let's
New
hear
York
what she
State.
has to say.
Upon that, at least in New York State, we have long school day. We have an unrealistically early start. We have no breaks, and we have to sit in a desk all day and be expected to just sit there and behave and be quiet and do worksheets all day, and it's really mind-numbing.
Teens have a biological inability to wake up before 8 a.m. Teens do not begin to feel sleepy until about 10:45 p.m. Do not naturally awaken before 8 a.m. Sleep-deprived teens more likely to use drugs. Shifting the school day later results in a boost in attendance, test scores, and grades. Chance of depression for teens rises with less than 9 hours of sleep. Car crashes decline when teens obtain more than 8 hours of sleep per night.
School starts at 7:35 a.m. That's middle school. That means we got 6th graders in there. Those are 10 or 11-year-olds that gotta wake up at 6 to have enough time to get ready and catch the bus. 10 to 11-year-olds, they need 10 to 11 hours of sleep, even maybe more. That means they gotta go to bed at 7 or 8 p.m. to get enough sleep. Now, it's probably hard enough for 11-year-olds as is to fall asleep at 7 or 8 p.m. But for adolescents, our sleep cycles are totally f***ed up. Several studies have shown that we really don't start falling asleep until 10 or 11 p.m. and we really don't start waking up naturally until later into the morning. Now that makes things pretty hard for us because most kids aren't getting 8 hours of sleep. Not even 8 hours of sleep. They're getting less than that because they do their sport, they have all this extracurricular, they don't go to sleep until 11 p.m. and then they gotta wake up at 6 a.m. That's not healthy. Not only does that make things hard, but also adolescent brains don't really work early in the morning. Our brains are not really functioning properly until like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., which means you're going to classes in the morning and your brain isn't even on. Oh great, that's amazing, that sounds wonderful. Wow, I'm so excited for my later high school years. I'm sure it's great for our health. It seems pretty good for our health. And then on top of that sleep deprivation, at least in New York State, we have no breaks during the school day. Except for lunch, which is just 30 minutes of eating. The rest of the 6.5 hour, 7-hour day is just straight up doing worksheets, having classes, no rest. But a lot of people would actually disagree with my stance that there should be some kind of reform on this, that school should be pushed to put a later starting time. People would disagree with my stance on this, mainly adults and older people that think we're snowflakes for complaining about this. But kids nowadays don't really have to go through as you did to be a strong and independent person, an upstanding member of society. And a lot of studies back up the information that I've been talking about. And it's not like the schools aren't aware. It's just that it's a little bit too cumbersome, and it's a little bit too much of a hassle to actually do any educational reform. Now, because of these mind-numbing conditions, I would say the system is kind of ideal for pushing out people that are kind of just going to be able to sit there and kind of die. But I don't know if you notice, there's been a bit of a culture shift. Companies aren't looking for that kind of worker anymore. Companies, the big, hip companies, Silicon Valley tech startups, they want those new creative thinkers. They want the next generation of young, innovative thinkers with the next biggest idea. The creatives. Ooh, the kid that has the idea for the next social network that can steal everybody's private info and sell them to various shady companies across America. Another thing that I really love about the American school system? The authority figures, the principals, and the administration. I really love the fact that principals walk around like cops, yell at any kid who's actually having fun in school. I love how they speak to us like we're 5-year-olds and we don't know anything about the world. I love how they step out of line a lot and give people crazy punishments for doing nothing because they're just power tripping. I love how they walk around like police officers because police officers are great too.
Government's just trying to make us all into mindless drones that are going to be ideal for when AI takes over and they can do mind control voodoo and make us all mass produce high-powered bidets.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to the Sq'd Show. We happen to get this amazing young lady who's in middle school who kind of nails it perfectly, doesn't she?
Sitting at a desk all day long, becoming a drone.
For hours at a time with a half hour for break. I mean, they're getting
doing
up.
worksheets.
Yeah, starting school at 7:30. I don't know about you, but I went to school 9 till 3:30. I barely brought homework home. Got through. I feel like I'm pretty smart. I'm not saying I'm highly intellectual, but I got to be a CFO for a minor league baseball team, so you can't be too messed up.
Most of them here start at 8, so that's like you have to get up at 6. If you have to catch your bus, you have to eat 6:37. Depending on how close you are to school.
But what she's saying is they're not getting enough sleep.
No.
So we're sleep depriving these kids.
And their brains don't really start functioning until 9:30, 10 o'clock. They get waked up and they get moving around. Their blood moves. But
yeah. It's really kind of sad, but it hasn't changed in years.
No.
It needs to be totally revamped, and she's so right, is that we're not personalizing the school to the person. If we found their passion and built the math and English into what they love, be far better off. But it's too much work.
Well, many people would say that school and middle school is not for that. That's to learn basic stuff, and then you personalize it as you.
Well, where does the testing come in? How did that all happen? We never had tests like that. So whose brilliant brainstorm fart idea was that?
They're testing everybody. How about learning something for a while before they start testing? Like a year or two before they start the test? I don't know.
We absolutely love this because again, you're listening to, what, a 13 or 14-year-old talk about the school system, maybe even younger, who knows. She's pretty amazing. Her name is Soph, and she talks about school, spelled with a K. She's brilliant. But we thought we'd share that with you this morning because we have talked about the schools. You know, and this leads into what the community schools, hopefully that will bring some kind of change to the regular school system. I know they don't want to base everything on testing. The teachers hate it. And we know a lot of teachers, and I've spoken to a lot of teachers, and I spoke to many across the country, all feel the same about these tests. There has to be another way. There's a lot that doesn't show up in a test. Okay, so, and the other thing she mentions is this authority type thing, okay? So the principal's walking around feeling all proud, just like a peacock. I wouldn't say that's all the principals, but it's probably a good majority of them. We're not treating the youth of today that they are important to society. Do you think are we including them in discussions about what's happening in the world? I'm going to guarantee we're not, right? And then, you know, it's important that they understand what's going on in the world, that they understand about money. These are things that really important as you get older. I mean, what's a credit card? How is debt formed? Who do you pay? Why are you paying all this interest? I mean, we have to give...
They don't have home economics anymore, do they?
No skills.
Mathematics.
Yeah. We used to have trade schools. We don't have those.
How to balance a checkbook.
How to balance a checkbook.
A budget.
Yeah. We could probably take a lot of parents through that course.
Insurance, education.
Yeah.
Life skills, education.
You know, maybe less people would get preyed upon if they understood how things work. You know, these calls that you get, oh, hey, you can have this, you know, start asking questions. But where does the education start? What do you think about full-day kindergarten? Jared Paul has just passed a bill saying that he wants to really go for the all-day kindergarten. Now it's a half-day. I think kids at 5 should be in school all day.
Not all day, no.
Okay, I'm of two minds of this because I think one, if a child's sitting at home and plugged in front of a TV or given a telephone to play with so they can play games while daycare or person at home, the guardian, parent, grandparent are trying to keep busy or watching game shows, I think in that case it's better for the child to be in school in a structured environment and learning something.
Well, that would be, you know, you're fine-tuning it and examining everybody, and that's not quite a democratic way of doing it, is it?
Well, the thing is, if you're in half a day, it's more of a problem, because if you work, or you're one of these people that have to go out and earn an income, you've got to get a sitter for a half a day, too.
But that's a whole extra program that our educators have to deal with. It makes more work for them. It makes them, you know, another project.
I know.
Yes.
Well, they say that a child
Reform.
learns more in the first 5 years. So if you use that theory, if that's true, and their brains are more apt to pick up things in the first 5 years, we could be teaching things like second languages, and they would get it earlier rather than waiting until they get to middle school and trying to teach another language. They're vulnerable, and they're very impressionable, and they're very apt to learn at a young age. I think it's great. I think the earlier the better, and I wasn't always a proponent of it. I just think that if a child has a chance to learn at a younger age, then it's better. But I'm talking about a quality system. We're not talking about the school system right now. Sit down in this chair and listen to me lecture to you. I'm talking about hands-on, let's learn about bugs and trees and plants and life, and let's cook a little meal. You know, kids at 5 years old could do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They would find it quite fascinating. I mean, we've done it with the kids in the community and around our place. We, Jimmy and I went out and bought, a flat of strawberries, made jam with the kids.
Yeah, with
they
a lot of
enjoyed
sugar.
it.
Yeah, but
a lot of sugar. But it's the process of going through it and feeling like they have made something, contributed somehow. And I think if we spent more time engaging kids and making them feel part of society early on, we'd be better off. Anyway. Anything else you want to say on schools? How was yours?
Went to very many different schools. Went to too many
Okay, so what was your
moved around.
favorite, and why was
Liked
it your
English because there were stories, and there was, the reading was interesting because math was not. And a lot of the reading, it was just, you could escape into that because apparently everything was boring, sitting at a desk so you could read.
favorite? And so you're using your imagination.
Yeah, you're definitely using your imagination. Mm-hmm. Because you got to do something. I just remember that. It was just my imagination was looking for something to do.
Were you bored in school?
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
For as long as I can remember.
But you see, I had the math component and hated the English part.
I did enjoy the teachers that engaged you, but I can't say that I learned a lot. An algebra teacher that would say, elucidate, to try to get you to talk about it. See, he knew what he was doing, but still, math was not my thing, so I couldn't get into it. And then most of the other teachers, I remember they were very droll or boring or slow or uninteresting.
Yes.
And then you always have the one teacher that, like a Mrs. Bynum that tells you when you're like in the second or third grade, James, if you don't go to school and get an education, you'll always be taking orders from everybody, and you'll be doing everything they tell you. And if you go and get your education, you'll be able to be a boss and tell people what to do and all that. That was her.
So those
thing.
are the choices. You're either the grunt person or the boss.
Yeah, that was it.
There's no mention that you could have your own business and then.
Yeah. So apparently, her personal experience was having to be told what to do all the time, even though she was a teacher. So she didn't go on and get her.
That's sad.
But that was my first.
And do you remember those great teachers? I do. We had great teachers, but we had more of the boring teachers.
Yeah.
Our English teacher, Mr. Furlong, walk in the door. How are yous guys today?
Yeah.
And he loved to hear himself talk, and he was boring, and I was always talking in class and always getting in trouble. Yeah. You can't. If you're not going to engage the kids, don't expect that they're going to tune in and listen to you ramble on just because you like to hear yourself. Because we do that at meetings. There are people that just drone on forever, and you're just like, oh, please, stop. So it doesn't change. But this girl has it nailed. She's talking about from the heart what she thinks is the problem, and I think she's dead on.
They start too early. And not enough breaks, and very mind-numbing process of worksheets and continual, just.
Did you have elementary, middle school, and high school?
Had elementary. No, I had junior high. What they call
okay, because we didn't have the separate.
Went all the way through the 6th grade and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Oh, okay.
Junior high and high school was together.
Oh, well, we went to school. It was 1 to 8, and then high school was 9 to 12.
Mm-hmm. No.
So, but I don't know. Did you get picked on? Did you have bullying?
Sure, some. Not a whole lot.
No.
No.
Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot either. But I maybe that's where I get my protesting. Jump started because we were going to the High School of Commerce, and we were expected to all be secretaries because it was a women's school, girls' school, and you had to wear skirts and dresses. You weren't allowed to wear pants. I remember they walked out, sat on the lawn, rebelling against this rule. And I was like, this is great. Yeah, let's go sit on the lawn. We can wear pants. And they actually changed. They changed the whole system. And then eventually it ended up being integrated. So it was boys and girls. But I'm dating myself, aren't I? That's quite a while ago. But that's what girls' jobs were. You were the secretary. So that was your big aspiration. Did you ever grow up and be a secretary somewhere? We even took shorthand. Okay, so you were talking about cursive. They're not even teaching that.
Well, everybody will print nowadays, or they won't print at all, or they'll text, to communicate. So
I think we're going to digital.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me. I guess it does. It surprised me, but then I see the reason behind not having to write. It's all about AI in the future. So our advice: go and get a lot of knowledge in technology, because that's where the jobs will be. And good luck McDonald's trying to find clerks. I see even they have kiosks in their restaurants now. You go in and order and then pick the meal up. You see, they're priming everybody, so you won't have to deal with individuals.
They tried this a long time. They were talking about doing more of the where you go in and you have sit down at a table for four, and on the table is the computer. They tried that, but they didn't go with it. They went to
we've
the
seen
kiosk.
that
I've seen it, but
in the
it's not very
restaurants.
often.
But it
Some
was
places,
handy, 'cause
Some
you could-
places. Well, this is like a little box, but for a while there, they were talking about on the table itself, like the table was a computer, because I saw they tried to do those things. They didn't take off. Maybe they cost too much, but some of the big chains were trying that several years ago.
But we did like the fact that you could pay your bill at the table and have that little computer. And
Yeah,
now
the
it has
little
a game on it,
kiosk.
which keeps
Those
you
that
occupied.
have kiosks, yeah.
Well, it's definitely changing times. The school has to keep up. They have not kept up. They have not changed to make it more exciting and more futuristic. So we're all about that. And if the community school thing does that, or is a jump start into that, then we're all for that. So that's our segment.
This is the Sq'd Show on Fridays at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. on KLYC 98.5 FM, your community radio station for Pueblo, Colorado. And I am Jimmy Ray Smith.
And I'm Janet Wilson Smith, and we'll tune in with you next week, 10 o'clock, Friday.
Have a great day, Pueblo.
Well, we got no choice. All the girls and boys making all that noise 'cause they found new toys. Well, we can't salute ya, can't find a flag. If that don't suit ya, that's a drag. School's out for summer. School's out forever. School's been blown to pieces.